Manifesto. I make the mistake of watching Elliot Rogers' Manifesto video. I watch on my phone in bed while the gray, early morning California sun slices through the blinds. In the video, the sun is hot yellow on Rogers' face. He says if he can't have any girls, he'll take great pleasure in annihilating us all. He tells us we deserve it. He laughs a little. But worst of all, he looks so fucking normal. He looks like a kid I had a crush on in elementary school. My body turns solid, locks itself up, the way I felt once when I grabbed a live electric fence. I get so afraid I can't leave the house for days. After 4 days at home being afraid, I decide fear is becoming its own kind of lockup. I put on a pink sundress and put a book in my bag. As soon as I get out of the door, I realize it's not as hot as it looks and my dress is all wrong. I'm very aware of my bare legs, how naked they look from the ankle to the knee. Normally I notice things like the new yellow roses blooming beside the library, but today I notice the men, how many of them there are. For every man with his hands in his pockets, I look for a gun. I keep trying to remember faces in case I have to identify any of them later. At the crosswalk, I watch every car, try to figure out if that red pickup or that black BMW will run me over. I hold my dress down with my hands. I find a park bench in the little Central Park. I try to read, but I can't focus. Instead, I watch an older, barefoot man with a white goatee with a small, bright purple kite beckon to two girls, maybe 4 years old, a tiny blonde and a brunette who'd been watching him, both with the red faces and tangled hair of childhood. I don't see their mother. The man hands the kite to the blonde girl and leans down to whisper instructions. There isn't much wind today, and I can't figure out why he's trying to fly kites. I try not to think the worst. I feel like I'm losing it. I want so badly to not be afraid of him. The blonde girl takes off, the purple kite up somehow into the air behind her. Another man walks past, this one younger. His gait seems off, asymmetric. His eyes dart around in a way that's not quite steady. He turns to watch the little girls and the purple kite. "Hey!" he yells. I flinch. "That's a good idea you've got there." His voice carries, and now it seems like everyone is watching the little girl with the purple kite, watching how even on this nearly windless day, the kite stays aloft as long as she keeps going, a shock of brightness against the blue sky. Sweet 16. We ran down the covered outdoor hallways in our bare feet. The concrete floor is cold and dirty at the Best Western, where Brooke wanted to have her 16th birthday. The hotel sat next to the main intersection in town, across the street from a decrepit strip mall with 5 stores which were always changing and a gas station that never did. The Farmer Jack grocery store across the street where everyone would later work. An empty, marshy lot, kitty corner with faded signs for failed local politicians, weeds taller than I was, and a realtor sign. No one ever quite brave enough to put their money on this small town. For now, most of us were only 15. We were alone in the hotel. Brooke's dad was supposed to come check on us, and that was enough for me to be able to truthfully tell my mom that we had adult supervision. There was something in my chest felt all knotted up, the way it always does when I lie. We pounded down the hallway, our small heels going bang, and I wasn't quite sure why we were running, but it felt scary and good to be out alone in the dark. Brooke stopped and knocked on a seemingly random door, and my legs felt coiled up, ready to run again. But the door opened, and somehow, impossibly, it was Tyler. Tyler was Brooke's boyfriend, a boy she'd met online when meeting online was still new, and talked to on the phone after her parents went to bed. Sometimes she'd balance the cordless phone on the countertop while she showered and listened to him tell her jokes. Tyler was 21 and lived in Oregon. It did not occur to us to be afraid. Hearing his deep voice echo around Brooke's bathroom, the idea of talking to a boy while you were naked, the fact that he and Brooke did not want to stop talking, even for the length of a shower, I was almost as in love with him as she was. And there he was in the doorway, so ordinary in a blue t-shirt, hair wet and clean from a shower. Behind him, in his hotel room, was a white shirt crumpled on the floor. On the dresser, there was a bottle of Hershey's syrup and a can of whipped cream I thought then must have been for Brooke's birthday cake. Now I wonder, what was this 21-year-old thinking, driving across the country from Oregon to Michigan for a newly 16-year-old girl? But then he was just there, and I thought how good it must feel to have someone who wanted to be near you so badly. We sat in the hotel room in a circle, watching television or watching Tyler tell jokes, watching Tyler put his hand on Brooke's thigh, watching how she didn't flinch. I was amazed at how normal we all acted when I felt like we were all at the edge of something. 3 loud knocks on the door. Brooke's father. We all jumped, maybe someone squealed, and we hushed her. Brooke stood in one motion, took Tyler by the arm, and led him to the bathroom. Most of us followed like a flock of geese, crowding in there to help, though I'm not sure with what. Tyler stepped into the cracked tub and stood there in his clothes, not smiling, not anything, as Brooke pulled the moldy curtain in front of his face. Walking back across the room, we all settled into positions we thought seemed normal. I couldn't decide if my crossed legs looked too formal. Maybe I should bend one knee. I looked frantically around the room for traces of him. It seemed impossible that we wouldn't be caught, that a power like his could be hidden so easily. Brooke opened the door. Her father stood in a baggy brown trench coat. He was bald and looked even more tired than usual. Having fun? He asked, as if he couldn't possibly imagine we were. Yeah, we all said, nearly in unison. My eyes felt like they were too wide, like I'd seen something awful. My smile hurt. We couldn't know that a month later one of the girls would tell her father, who was a cop, and all of us would be questioned by the police, asked if he'd drugged or raped us. I'd be so adamant that Tyler had done nothing wrong, though all of it felt like I'd been looking at things through the wrong end of the telescope, and I couldn't see anything for what it was. And he'd be arrested and disappear anyway. Brooke, too, would slowly disappear from school. I was too afraid to contact her, afraid to be looped into a home where her father screamed at her that she was fucking stupid, and her mother was permanently manic, though to me she always just seemed high-strung and loud and near tears. Brooke would eventually disappear for good, and whenever I'd try for the next 12 years to search for her online, all I could find were her mother's frantic blog posts pleading for information, and when I called, an unknown man's voice saying, "Sorry, wrong number." For now, Brooke stood with her hip against the door, a goddess nearly 6 feet tall with wild blonde curls, looking like she'd done this before. For now, the rest of us were only 7 girls, terrified by what we were capable of.